we know our dreams are valid, but not important enough for us to move toward them. So I talk to people, or I mentor them, or I consult them in different areas. And I listen to the conversation. And the conversation is very interesting to me because they'll come in with this grand and elaborate vision of what they want to do with their lives. And I begin to ask those deep questions. Why are you not pursuing this? What's the holdup? What's the delay? What's standing in the way of it? And all I get is a bunch of excuses, because what I realize is that this thing has not become important enough for them to pursue it. When I was given this vision, and ultimately, my vision is very simple. It is to empower people around the world to fulfill purpose and to maximize their greatest potential. Sometimes that is through a podcast. Sometimes that's through an interview. Sometimes that's in a magazine. Sometimes that's on a stage delivering a powerful, prolific keynote presentation. Sometimes that's in behind closed doors, consulting leaders and world leaders around the world. Whatever that capacity is, that's the mission. But I think about how there was a time in my life where I made so many excuses for why I couldn't do this. This wasn't right. You don't know the right people. You don't have the right relationships. You don't have the right connections. You don't have this or that. A lot of things will happen for you and unfold for you as you take a step. And it's amazing how I used to tell myself all of these reasons why I couldn't do this and couldn't do that. And the moment I started to take the action, all of those things began to be attracted into my life. I didn't have to manipulate it. I didn't have to coerce. I didn't have to jockey for a position or try to rub shoulders or to get around a certain person or people. All I had to do was start taking action in the direction of my desired dream and outcome. And I feel like for a lot of us, we think it's rocket science, and it's not. And the longer you sit back and do nothing, the more miserable your life is going to be. And the more action you take, the more fulfilled your life is going to be. And the more the pieces of your prophetic puzzle are going to begin to come together as you go after the life you were born for. Just because a dream, vision, or goal does you have a dream, vision, or goal does not mean that you value it. Ooh, that's a statement. Just because you have a dream, vision, or goal does not mean that you value it. A lot of people have dreams. In fact, the graveyard is the richest place in the world. It's full of dreams that were never fulfilled, visions never realized, potential that died, books that were never written, songs that were never written, performances that were never given, world changing ideas that never made it to the public. The graveyard is a rich place, and we among the living take potential for granted every single day. We have deceived ourselves into believing that we have all the time in the world. And the reality is that you do not have all the time in the world. All you have is this moment. What are you going to do with this moment? And how are you going to use the moments of your life to do the thing that you were born and destined to do? You know, a lot of times when I'm talking with very close people and I say this, it rubs them the wrong way. And I tell them my time on this earth is very limited. So I have to use every moment to my advantage. And people say, don't say that, Jamel. Well, the reality is that there will come a day when Jamel Sanders exits this world and his time here expires. And that's a question I think about every day of my life. And when that moment happens, what do I want to be said of me? How did I live my life in service to humanity? What contribution did I make? What deposit did I make? What imprint did I leave on the world? That to me is what's important. Not awards, not accolades, not accomplishments, not achievements, not all the accoutrements of success that I cannot take with me anyway, but what difference have I made in my lifetime, in my generation? That question motivates everything that I do in my life. It is impossible to value something and not pursue it. So there are people that argue with me and they say, how dare you say I don't value my dream? How dare you say I don't value my vision? And my question to them is, if you value it so much, why are you not pursuing it? Why is it not important to you? Why are you making excuses for why you're not living the life you were born to live? Why are you living below your potential? Why are you eating with mediocre people? going to the movies with mediocre people, wasting your weekends with mediocre people, only to live the same mediocre life, to sit on the same mediocre chair, to go be with the same mediocre people, knowing deep down inside that you have been called to so much more, but you're not living up to that. And so each of us is different, but for me, that's not acceptable for me. So you can just go through the motions and do the same thing you've been doing and keep getting the same results you've been getting, or you can do something different that's going to change your life. And as I often say, what different thing are you going to do that's going to change the direction of your life? Those are the type of questions that have to be at the forefront of your thinking. As we move into part three of this series, I want to address the elephant in the room. I want to address the primary culprit of abandoned dreams, hope deferred, and aborted destinies. I hope you're ready. Are you ready for this? The number one reason that most people never live the life of their dreams is because of inaction. I know you're looking for something deep and profound and prolific, but that is deep and profound and prolific because that's the reason that most people are not living the life of their dream. They're living the life of their nightmares, they're living the life of their fears, they're living the life of their inhibitions and their limitations and their self imposed lids that they have put on their lives and their potential, but they are not living a life of action. And I'm sure you've heard me say this before, but inaction is the down payment on future cycles of disappointment and defeat. So when I look around the world today, I see so many individuals that are living a life that is manufactured, that is mediocre, that is not anyway in match or in measure of their true potential and who they were created to be. You can listen to inspiration and find motivation, but that will not change your life. And I'm always honored when people say, "Oh, you have inspired me and you have motivated me." Well, the greatest thing that you can do if I've really motivated you and inspired you is to go after the life you were born for. Because if all of my inspiration and motivation does not produce a conviction in you to go after something deeper and more meaningful in your life, then these were just wasted words and wasted moments that had no value. The greatest thing you can do for yourself is to live your life in pursuit of the life you were born for and in honor of your greatest potential. You can study the lives of high achievers and world changers, and that won't change your life either. Regardless of how much information you gather, it means nothing if you continue to be a person of inaction. So, what most people do, they listen to a podcast like this. You get that euphoric feeling, you're motivated and inspired for a few moments, and then you go back to life as usual. And you are conflicted because you're like, well, I was motivated. And I've told you so many times, I don't live off of inspiration or motivation because I'm not inspired and motivated all the time. And, when I say that to some people, it's like, this shockwave goes through them. I'm not motivated all the time. I'm not inspired all the time, but I'm a very focused and disciplined person. So, regardless of motivation or inspiration, there are certain things that are going to get done in my life on a consistent basis anyway. And I think that that's the missing piece for so many people. If we value discipline and focus as much as we did inspiration and motivation, imagine how much farther so many people would be in their lives. Many people around the world respect and admire the work that I do. However, admiration for me without love for yourself is a recipe for failure and regret. Write that down. Admiration for me without love for yourself is a recipe for failure and regret. At some point, you have to stop simply acknowledging that things need to change in your life. And you have to stop just being aware that something in your life needs to change. You have to stop just gathering information about the change you want to make and talking about the changes that you want to see manifest in your life. At some point, you have to graduate from being a person of ambition to being a person of action. This is the thing that stands in the way of so many people really being successful. If you want to move forward with your life, it's not going to come because you wrote down a vision or you wrote down a plan for the next 6 months or 12 months or 5 years or whatever. What's going to be the difference maker in your life is the action that you're willing to take. And I always tell people, how long